All right. We are going to have to do this like this. So I'm live. I didn't warn anybody. I don't have the ability to film and then upload. So I'm going to do my recap like this. You guys will probably come in the middle of me filming this and ask some questions. But I mean, look, in all honesty, when I film my videos, normally I do them in one take anyway. So you're basically just watching me record this video live. So it is what it is. That's why we're doing it this way. I'm in Orlando in a hotel room, obviously. So if it's your first time to the channel, this is not my normal setup. But that fight card was bananas. And by the way, people who are coming on live, if I'm less engaged with the chats, it's because I need to film this like it's going to be a video that's going to sit up for a while. So I apologize in advance. If you have something really serious, super chat it. Anyway, so let's talk about this fight card last night because, dude, so I was at an event last night in a suit, right? Like I was in a suit all night, going from bar to bar with an iPad, this iPad, okay? Like I'm in a suit walking around with this iPad everywhere I went because I didn't miss a minute of the fights last night. Like not a second, none of it. Everybody's just like coming up and talking to me, but my wife was there. And so she's going, hey, like she's like showing people my YouTube channel. She's all, look, like this is like he's, don't bother him. He's not going to talk to you. And so I got to basically watch the whole event in peace. But man, like I honestly don't even know where to start. Like because you could go in either order. If I start with Colby versus Usman, which obviously was incredible, and then go down, that's one way. Or in my opinion, the greatest 3-round fight of all time led the main card off. And in all honesty, that's actually not really where we should start either. Because if we really want to talk about one of the most impactful things that happened last night, read my mind. Can you think of anybody who entered the fray last night in the prelims that is going to have an earthquake-sized impact on the UFC going forward? Ready? Put it in the chat. I know I said I'm not engaging with the chat as much right now, but I mean, this should be a no-brainer, dude. Because for those of you who are unaware of who Pereira, the prelim card, that's the dude that knocked Israel Adesanya out. Smoked cold, beat him twice, okay, in K1. Like right before Israel Adesanya left K1 in kickboxing, he got knocked unconscious by a dude, like smoked unconscious. And the other guy had beat him before. So Izzy has lost this dude twice, okay? And the last fight he had out there was a knockout against this dude that, like, this dude knocked him out. And that guy, Alex Pereira, he was the last fight on the undercard, and he was the one that did the flying knee to knock the dude out in the beginning of the second round. The reason why that guy was the guy he was fighting was trying so hard to get it to the ground is because this dude is as dangerous or more dangerous than Izzy on his feet. So that's why he's trying to drag him to the ground in the end of the first, or the whole first round. And then as soon as the guy got a little bit of room, 15 seconds into the second round, he threw a flying knee that KO'd the guy. So that guy, if you're looking around like, geez, who's Izzy going to fight next? It's like, that motherfucker. That's who he's going to fight next. He'll beat Whitaker or whoever he fight. I mean, I don't see a road where Whitaker beats Izzy. That is a horrendous matchup for Whitaker. It's just it is a terrible, terrible matchup for him, just in terms of styles. But yeah, so Pereira now all of a sudden is in the mix at 185 in a big way because Izzy, who seems invincible, has lost to him twice, So that's huge. Anyway, but now I'll just I'm going to move up to the main card just because there's so much to talk about anyway that I don't want to, So when Chandler and Gaethje fought, like, dude, when I tell you guys I won my bets last night, I've never in my entire career had a night where I hit bets like I hit last night. I missed maybe 3, but I literally hit like 8 to 9 bets and a bunch of parlays. I hit fucking everything last night. Like I hit everything. And it's not because, it's not because I'm like a genius. A lot of the time was because I was betting to like protect myself against against disappointment. Like Gaethje was one of the main central bets that I made throughout the night, just because I was so emotionally invested in Chandler winning that I was like, okay, well, this will dampen it if Chandler doesn't win. And so, I mean, I won a lot of dough because Gaethje won, but like that fight, I mean, so this is what I'm going to say about that fight. And I intentionally talked for 5 minutes before I got into this because if people are new to the channel, this live stream is for my actual viewers. And because I knew if I say what I'm about to say right now and people are new to the channel, they're going to be like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? But here's the thing, right? Like, I think we're at the point now that we can acknowledge that fighters watch my channel. I mean, maybe not all of them, but a lot of guys watch my channel. I know this to be true for 100% sure because I talk to them. And Chandler obviously is someone who watches my channel, and he and I have talked about my videos. I know for a fact that he's watched videos that I did about Justin Gaethje specifically. And what did I always say about Justin Gaethje every single time that I talked to him, which 1000% Chandler has seen me say multiple times, is I said that the way Gaethje likes to fight, or like he used to like to fight, is he'll just stand in front of you and you'll break first. Like he'll bang with you until you fucking break, and everyone fucking breaks. I know for 100% sure that Chandler had seen me say that a bunch of times. And so when I was watching that fucking, and if you think about this sport the way that I do, and I could put myself in Chandler's position, and I was watching that and thinking about it, and that's how I envisioned my opponent, was like, this is a guy who breaks people. And then all through fight camp, what he's preparing to do is, I won't break. Like, I won't fucking break. I'm not breakable. Because that's how I would take it. If I was Chandler and I started seeing, you know, maybe that's how he saw him too, but I know for sure that he saw me say it, and thus it's inevitable that this was something that he thought about. If I'm Chandler and I'm in his position and I see that video and I start framing my opponent as he's the one who breaks everyone, that is all I would think about. Like, that is fucking all I would think about. It is the only thing I would think about in training, is I would be like, no one can break me. And so when I was watching that fight and I was thinking about that, that's what I saw. Is I saw a guy who was like, I'm not breakable. Fuck all these other guys. And that's why, even though he lost, I literally was just like, oh my God, man. Like, think about that performance through that lens, dude. Like, where he puts himself in a place mentally where he can't be broken. And then think about that fight, dude. Like, that was one of the most like hair standing up, like bone chilling, inspiring performances I've ever seen. Like, I was just like, dude, again, like, fuck the W, man. Like, Gaethje is a savage and deserves it. And dude, and then I heard Gaethje like went in the ambulance with Chandler to the hospital. And I was like, Jesus, I fucking love this sport, dude. Like, I love it. I love it so much. It's crazy. Like, Gaethje is I think that, and Gaethje's fucking amazing. But man, when I thought, like, you couldn't break him, dude. Like, the fact that he did not go out around when he lunged and he grabbed a hold of that leg, you know, when Gaethje was sprawled out and he just held on. And you know, I was there's another guy that was with me who trains at American Top Team, and he was like, he's looking at that grip. He's like, you understand how fucking strong you have to be to hold on to that grip right there that he has behind Gaethje's leg, where he's being stretched out like that. Like, that's just straight up, like, man. And he held on to that through not just fucking exhaustion, but through complete brain scramble, equilibrium, rocked out of this world. He took 2 shots that should have knocked anyone else out. 2. And he fucking held on. Because he had prepared himself that he wasn't going to break no matter what. Like, he was going to have to be unconscious for him to stop fighting. You know, if a guy's unconscious, that's not breaking them. That's not the same thing. You know, like the first Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman fight, Colby also didn't get broken, right? Same thing. Like, but that's as close as you can get because he didn't give up, right? Like his body failed. He fell. He dove for a leg. His jaw's broken. He's bleeding out of every fucking part of his face. He grabs a hold of a leg and he holds it. And then they stop the fight. I understand why Colby got so mad about that first stoppage. It's not a bad stoppage. His body gave out, but he didn't break. It's not the same thing. And Chandler just was not going to break no matter what. You're going to have to kill him in there last night. He fucking walked Gaethje down with his hands down. He fucking walked him down with his hands down in the third round. Like, if that doesn't frame the fight the way that I'm explaining it, then what does, dude? That's what Chandler was in there doing. He wasn't fighting Gaethje. He was proving he's unbreakable. Like he fucking walked Gaethje down with his hands down, as rocked as he was, because he was like, not tonight, dude. I mean, like, just walking guy down with his hands down, does that sound like a strategy that you're trying to implement because you're like, I think I can slip a punch and knock him out? Or are you fucking proving a point that as a man on that night, it doesn't matter what you hit me with, I'm not moving? Fuck, man. Oh, God, that was so awesome. I mean, I honestly don't care at all who won that fight. Like, it just doesn't, like for how I view the sport, the winner of that fight was literally completely irrelevant. Like it had made no difference. Chandler wasn't fighting for a belt in that moment. Anyway, that was, I really believe that's the best 3-round fight ever. Like I really do. I do not believe that I've ever seen a 3-round fight that was better than that. And that's all like a subjective thing. But for me, and framing it the way that I am almost certain was in the mind of, one of those fighters, like you'll never convince me that there's a better 3-round performance than that. Like in terms of that. But yeah, so that's that. I think, I would be shocked I guess because Gaethje won, it depends on who wins, Poirier or Oliveira. Because if Poirier wins, I would say high likelihood that they do the Gaethje fight. And if Charles wins, I think there's I think there's a higher probability that Islam Makhachev gets a title shot if Oliveira wins than versus if Dustin Poirier wins. I can't really explain why. I just like the matchups better. Like I'm fascinated by an Islam Makhachev versus versus Charles Oliveira fight. And I'm equally fascinated to see a rematch between Gaethje and Poirier. I'll be honest with you though. I like Gaethje against Charles. I like Dustin versus Gaethje. Because like the thing is like, you always have to kind of when you're analyzing a fighter and you're kind of framing where they're at, right? And you're like, okay, where's this guy at? How would he match up against these guys? After every single fight, you need to reevaluate all the assumptions that you made previously, right? Now, obviously on my channel, I generally kind of shy away from the X's and O's, and I'll tell you exactly why. It's the exact same reason why a teenage 16-year-old girl posts more pictures of themselves with their midriff showing. They get more clicks. Like when I do breakdowns, my videos literally get like 1/3 the attention. And that's probably because you can go watch Dan Hardy do a better job or Luke Thomas or whatever. But I do analyze these fights, obviously. And when it comes to these guys, the way that I view them, every single fight, I reframe it. So as an example, with Gaethje, he loses to Dustin, he loses to Alvarez. He changes the way he fights, lots more footwork, a lot more circling, a lot less sitting in the pocket. And then you go, okay, so first round knockout, James Vick knocks out, oh my God, the Barbosa. Then he knocks out Cowboy. Then he beats the shit out of Ferguson. And you're like, God damn, man, this guy's striking is so crisp. It's so sharp. He's way less wild. like this guy, he's much more surgical now, which is true, because to be more surgical than what he was, he just needed to stop behaving like a fucking sledgehammer, because he was just a stone sledgehammer. I'll stand in front of you, I'll bang your fucking face off, and then you can hit me back as much as you want, and you'll break first. Like, you'll fucking break before I will. And that's how he always won. Then he lost those 2 fights and he changed a little bit. But against Chandler, and Chandler did bait him into a slugfest for sure, but you can see Poirier for sure has much crisper striking. I mean, just in terms of like crisper, he's just more he's just more like Gaethje has a lot. I think Gaethje has a lot more power in the shots that he throws, but he's still going to get touched, man. Like, he's still going to get touched. And if you watch that first Poirier fight, now I will say this, dude, the fact that Poirier won that first fight was again, because that guy is also unbreakable. Like, if anybody has never watched Gaethje versus fucking Dustin Poirier 1, like, the second that you are like, man, I feel like watching an old fight, there is no, do not pass go. Watch that fight. Okay. I don't care that you know the outcome. Believe me. If you haven't seen that fight, if you think you saw the highlights, that you have not seen that fucking fight. Okay. Watch it. Because what you'll see is, you knew Dustin Poirier would win, and there is going to be a long period of that fight where you're gonna go, how the fuck is Dustin gonna win this fight? Like, literally, how on earth is Dustin going to win this fight? Exactly, like, almost actually not dissimilar from if Chandler would have won in the 3rd round last night. Like that, I mean, he was battered in a different way, but his leg was, I mean, Dustin was walking around on a fucking accordion leg. Like, his leg was toast. Like, could not walk, could not stand up with lots of time left. And he finished Gaethje because he can't break. He's not breakable. But again, Gaethje was very effective against Dustin, kicking the fuck out of his legs. I mean, I'm sure, Dustin will be prepared for it. Anyway, if I was going to pick right now, I would pick Gaethje over Oliveira, and I would pick Dustin over Gaethje. Makhachev is still a mystery because, candidly, I am not, I'm not advanced enough on the ground, getting better every day, but not advanced enough on the ground to where I can differentiate how much better Makhachev is than this guy, or where his grappling will match up well against Charles Oliveira. Like, that shit's like, I need to talk to my buddies who are fucking world champions to have any idea what I'm looking at there in terms of, the likelihood that one guy has an advantage over the other guy on the ground. But, and then with Makhachev, it's incredibly challenging to kind of walk through that fight, because he just hasn't had any stand-up wars, really. And so you're like, I mean, I haven't seen him engage. I haven't really seen him fight against anyone who has like tremendous takedown defense either. So like with Makhachev and Gaethje, the kind of initial breakdown is very similar to how I saw Khabib versus Gaethje, where I said I thought Khabib was in big trouble in that fight because no one had ever successfully taken and held Gaethje down, really, and so I'm sitting there like, dude, if he's stuck on his feet with Gaethje, that's a fucking nightmare, but Khabib's inhuman. But if Makhachev is actually as good at taking people down, as Khabib was, as guys in his camp say that he is, then maybe he gets into the ground. But it's basically the entire fight comes down to that one metric, so anyway, whatever. I've talked enough about these guys. Okay, so the next one was Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. Like, so these guys that I was hanging out with, they're like, who's this? They're like, so who are these fucking guys, man? And I was like, dude, Burgos. I was like, Shane Burgos' cousin is on my live streams all the time. And Burgos, assuming that this Burgos is on here isn't lying, but but I knew who Burgos was before. Burgos is a dude who is like, that guy can take punishment, like, and I don't mean I don't mean it negative. I just mean he's a guy where if you're standing across the octagon from him, you're like, I'm going out hurt tonight. Like, I might win, but I'm going out fucking hurt, because you're never going to get that guy out of there without him walking forward and you eating a lot of shots. He's a fucking granite chin guy. And if you guys don't remember, he's the one that was fighting Barbosa, and it was a war. And then Barbosa hit him with that one shot, and he just, like, his brain short circuited and he fell. But he won in another war, which is really awesome. I bet on him too. But then you had Chito Vera versus Frankie Edgar. Like that was kind of sad because Frankie was in his backyard. You know what I mean? Like Frankie Edgar was in his backyard. It's at Madison Square Garden. He's a Jersey boy. Like he's super, super New York, obviously. And so the truth of what happened there in terms of my bets was I bet Chito straight up, and I bet Chito in one of my parlays. And when I was sitting there, you know, kind of like during the prelims watching with this dude that we were hanging out with, he's like, I think I'm going to bet on Frankie. You know, he's in his hometown. And I was like, fuck. Like I completely forgot. Like when I made those bets, I totally forgot that Frankie was at home because Frankie is the epitome of a fucking primetime player. Like that guy is such a clutch player. You know what I mean? When like the shit's on the line, he's one of those guys that would just get, I mean, earlier in his career, you watch those fights with Gray Maynard. I mean, I will say you will be hard pressed to find a fighter who's ever been in such deep trouble that Frankie Edgar has been, and then consistently battled back and won fights. Like he's a fucking savage, dude. He's a savage. Now, the reason why I bet against him was just because I felt like Chito's on his way up. Edgar got knocked out by Sandhagen in his last fight. I'll say this though, dude. You know, so Chito ended up winning with a highlight knockout at the end, and I won a lot of money because of that kick. But like one thing that I noticed about Chito, just in terms of like fight analysis, is he is first of all, let me compliment him. His fucking jits is bananas, dude. Like that guy is sick on the ground. Like you are, you know, I like now I actually kind of fucking know what I'm looking at, you know, like for years before, like I kind of I'm like, okay, yeah, like look, you know, but now like I actually understand what he's trying to do and what he's attacking. And I was like, dude, he is like, you are not safe at all with him on his back, dude. Like he is trying, and that's now I see judging differently too, where I'm like, I think, you know, because I'm like watching with this dude and this guy's like, oh yeah, that went to Frankie for sure. I was like, the fuck are you talking about? Frankie got a takedown and then Chito was literally like, was working for submissions that entire time, kicked him in the face, was elbowing him from the bottom. Like Chito on his back is crazy dangerous. And Edgar is a vicious fucking wrestler, dude. You put him down there with like someone who's like mainly a striker, he's going to snatch their arm or he's going to choke him. Like he's bananas good, dude. His scrambles were awesome. Anyway, but one thing I noticed on the flip side of that is his biggest weakness is his first move. So he's set up and like that kind of like quick reaction, you know, like a guy takes a step forward, sidestep, you know, or right as he's moving in, like that like kind of snappy first step, that first reaction when either a guy's going to engage or a guy has just started to engage. Chito's, and again, I love Chito. I bet on him. Amazing performance. But that's the one thing that I saw. I was like, Jesus, then this guy, like, and it's not like he's a slow fighter either. Like, it's not like when he throws shots, he's moving slow. But that first thing where that just quick reaction to like the first movement is just non-existent with him at all. Like, that's why he kept getting caught. Like, he just kept getting caught when Frankie would come in because Frankie's quick. And he, like, just in that first kind of, you know, we're measuring in Frankie's, that's one of Frankie's best attributes. And fuck, man, Chito couldn't keep up at all. But he got the win with one of the most vicious front kicks ever. And the first, this is the first time I've actually looked at the chat. Yes, Frankie smushed him in the first round. I'm talking about the second round. Second round, he was on his back, attacking the entire time. First round, Frankie wasn't super safe either. But the second round is the one I'm talking about. Anyway, so congratulations, Chito. That's I don't really know where that puts him, like in the division or whatnot. But now this fight, the Rose Namajunas and Wei Li fight. You know what I should have actually said at the beginning of this thing for people who've been watching since I started is I had no sound the entire fights. Like I actually enjoy doing that now because like a lot of times I'm live, like I'm going live. I recently started putting a headphone in so I can hear the commentators like in the last event, but watching the fight and hearing no commentary is very interesting, dude. Like, as a matter of fact, I am going to, I won money on that wheel kick, the Barnett wheel kick. But I'm going to actually ask you guys in the comments a couple things here because I had no feedback. Like, you know, because a couple times I've recognized where I was watching without sound and I had an impression of the fight. And then like when I went online, I felt like there were a ton of people who like saw it very differently. I'm like, I wonder if the commentating is just affecting how people are seeing it or if I just saw it wrong or what, you know. But like in the Wei Li and Rose fight, I'm very curious what the commentators were saying as it relates to what the scorecards were at, because candidly, I was actually, pleasantly surprised that Rose got the nod. Because I thought it was likely that Wei Li was going to go 3-2, but all the rounds were so tight, and it really depended on how you scored them. I thought Rose in the later rounds, kind of adjusting her strategy to go for takedowns was super fucking smart, dude. That was really, really, really smart. And I just love watching Rose fight, man. And I think that here's what I'll say about that fight. First of all, it's a massive fight. I thought Wei Li performed very, very well, given where I thought she was at mentally going into that fight. Like where you could just see there was, that knockout loss took a lot out of her, and that was an impressive performance she put on last night. Like I don't think that she, shit the bed or anything. Like I said, I could have easily seen the nod going her way. I just think Rose is fucking vicious. She's the best, dude. And so one thing I'll say about this fight specifically is like, that's a beautiful fight to watch. And I'm not just saying it because they're two girls. I mean, like, because of their styles, like Rose is like light as a feather. She's like a butterfly jumping around there. She's just boom, boom, feints, in and out, circle, super light. And Wei Li is a blunt force instrument that has great technique, but and she is a little bit light. Actually, she bounces around when she's kind of, like when she's getting set, she looks pretty light on her feet when she's circling, but then when she gets into, she's moving forward and she's throwing strikes. There's no one who would call that light. Like she's like light, blunt object. And Rose is just, she's floating all the time. It's just I thought the two styles were fascinating and awesome to watch. And I'm glad that we got to see a little bit more of it this time because, the first fight, even though it was highlight knockout, was very short. You didn't even really get to see how they matched up against each other. Like the first fight, you didn't even see how those two incredible top tier elite athletes matched up with each other, and last night you definitely did. And I thought they fought pretty fucking even, dude. I mean, there was a pretty, I've talked about this on the channel a million times that I think it's unfortunate that, that you can't just rule fights a draw sometimes, like I understand with the win bonuses and stuff, but like, if you really take fights down to like the essence, two people that are like, all right, let's fucking do this. I mean, in real life, two guys can beat the shit out of each other. And then like when people leave, it's like, that's a fucking, I don't think you can say anybody won. That was just a great fight, but I mean, obviously it's not realistic. Okay, well, who gets the title shot then? Fuck what? Who gets the belt? I get it. But yeah, I mean, the fight was amazing, and I'm happy for Rose. It's the strawweight division though. You're like, all right, so Rose is gonna fight maybe that other Chinese girl or what's her name, the one that actually beat her back in the day. That's super boring and takes everybody down. But I don't know. I mean, all I know is I'm serious. And I'm not saying this like, I think the reason, here's what you should take from me saying that I won almost all my bets last night is I usually don't do that at all. Like I usually like, I've never had a night where I hit more bets than I did last night. And I don't know. I just got semi-lucky, I think. Yeah, because one of them was the big dude's wheel kick, and I just bet on him. I looked at and I bet against Shabazian. I bet on the dude with the wheel kick, and I was just doing it like I just was betting people's brains. Like Shabazian, I bet against him because I'm like, okay, so he fights under Edmund Tavardian. Tavardian's had all this heat on him for years and years and years, and finally he has a prodigy. And if I'm Shabazian, like, and now I'm prodigy under Tavardian, and I know the shit that he's eaten, I would feel so responsible to perform to prove that my coach is a good coach and that it wasn't deserved. Like the pressure to win under that environment would be enormous for a 21-year-old. Like, and then he lost 2 in a row. And so like, I'm just putting myself in the position of someone who feels so responsible for his coach's reputation, who's already dropped 2 in a row, and what his mental was probably like. And I bet against it. I mean, it's literally that simple. It's that was my thought process on that bet. And then, yeah, but anyway, so let's talk about the big one, right? So Colby versus Kamaru Usman was incredible. An incredible fight. It went, I mean, listen, Colby Covington is one of the toughest bastards. Like, I don't care what anybody, you know what? Actually, before I even talk about the fight, let me say this. So I'm trying to stay away from talking about what I think is real and what I think is not as it relates to fight hype now, because too many people watch my channel than before when I used to talk about it all the time. But I will say this, like, I think everybody common sense realizes that Colby is doing a shtick here, right? Like, he's doing a wrestling shtick. And I've always said that. And I'm like, dude, the guy, he's a good dude. Like, this whole thing's a shtick. If you think it's coincidence that I'm doing exactly what I said not to do. Anyway, but like, he obviously is not that way in his regular life, right? Like, he's a good dude. Anybody who I know who's trained with him, Marlon Moraes, all these guys, they're like, dude, Colby's awesome. But he doesn't ever take the mask off in front of the cameras generally. And then last night after the fight with Usman, how'd that go? Right? You heard those guys. You heard what he said because the microphone was right there, right? He didn't realize the microphone's right there. What did he say? Right? He said, mad respect, no matter what I said, like crazy respect. Usman said the same thing back. Dan Gugliotta was like, okay, guys, you guys don't need to make out here. That was on mic. Like, on the mic, he said, he's like, okay, guys, don't make out in the middle of the octagon. Okay. And then when Colby got to the press conference, what did he say? He said he has no respect for Usman. There were fucking, needle shots all over his stomach. He's a cheat. It's a shtick, dude. Like, it's a shtick that works. And the only reason that for at least this little portion of me talking about what he's actually like, I'm doing it because he's awesome. Like, he's fucking awesome. Okay. Like, I get like, and here's the thing. When he comes out and he says, I'm fighting for all the firefighters, the healthcare workers, and the cops, that's not a shtick. He 100% means that. And I agree with him 1,000% on that, but like Usman, I nothing but respect. You're an amazing fighter. They have a bond, man. Like, they just do, just like Gaethje and Chandler will forever now too. But like, and then immediately afterwards, needle shots in your stomach. Like, but to me, I'm a hardcore fan. I assume that you guys are too. If you're watching my live stream on a Sunday, right? Like, anybody who's on here, we got like 600-700 people on here. If you guys are watching me right now, then you're like I am. Like, we are not like other people. You know what I mean? Like, we are the people watching this right now and me doing it. We are not like Joe Schmo who buys a fucking random UFC pay-per-view. Like that, we're not the same. Like, we are in a different group from those guys. And apparently that was one of the biggest pay-per-views. Like, there's the 4th biggest gate ever at Madison Square Garden. They had an enormous pay-per-view. And Colby said, he was like, why do you think that was? I sold this place out. I was responsible for the pay-per-views, and that's not debatable. And that's fucking true. I mean, it's not that no one else contributed, because Gaethje and Chandler, that fight being on there was huge. Rose and Weili. And of course, Kamaru Usman is now whether he was marketable before or not is irrelevant. Once you win a certain number of fights and you're knocking guys out, fucking them up, you don't need to be Conor McGregor on the mic. Now you're a fucking force. Everyone knows it. There's no ambiguity about who Kamaru Usman is. And he's not uncharismatic either. He's really not. He's quiet. He's steel-eyed. He had a vision of what he was going to be, and that was more important to him than doing some fucking shtick. And I think you'll see that very consistently coming out of the Trevor Whitman camp in general. And I'm going to go back to Colby in a second, but let me just tangent on that real quick. Trevor Whitman coaches Usman, Gaethje, Rose. All 3 won. If Gaethje wins his title shot, all 3 will be champions. And that's the only team he has. Think about that, dude. Like, actually think about that. Especially you guys that train at a gym, okay? And honestly, I'm saying this like to people who are just regular people who train. Like, you're not professionals, not serious people like me that train because you like to fight. Imagine how big your gains are when you do one-on-ones with your professor versus class, right? Like, you need to do class because you need to have people to roll with and all that, and you learn good techniques. But the leaps that you make when you train one-on-one with someone is non-comparable at all to class. And you got Trevor Whitman one-on-one with those three all the time. All the time. All his energy is on perfecting those three athletes. And if you think that there's ambiguity as to why they are as good as they are, I'm telling you that is a major contributor. He's an incredible coach, and he gets to focus all of his energy on them, and all three of them share the same trait, which is they're not doing gimmicks. Like, their gimmick is fucking people up and then acting arrogant about it deservedly afterwards. And arrogant, I mean arrogant as a compliment, not as, like I go back and forth about ego, confidence. Arrogant, that's a different thing. Like Steve Hargett, my buddy's the #1 pound for pound jiu-jitsu. He's the most arrogant fucking person on earth, and it's hilarious. In a hilarious way, like where I'll be like, I'll say something to him. I'm like, dude, it's because he and I are the same size, or at least we are right now. He's going up a weight class. I'm like, it is so fucking demoralizing how little effort you have to use to beat me. Like, I'm strong as fuck. Okay. Like, I'm not saying that to suck my own dick. I just am. And so if I start, here, let's start with you on my back, seatbelt, hooks in. I'm strong as fuck. It should take a long time for him to be able to at least, it takes him a millisecond. It's like, boom, knee inside my knee. I know I'm beat instantly. And I'm like, it's fucking demoralizing. And he's like, well, if it makes you feel any better, it's basically that way with most black belts also. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. It's hilarious because it's true. It's true for him. Like that's the kind of arrogance I'm talking about, which is fucking awesome. And Kamaru wears that like such a boss, dude. And yeah, I mean, there are just no gimmicks. And like I said, going back to the original point, everyone knows what you're getting with Kamaru. So obviously he's contributing to selling pay-per-views now. But Colby's shtick is a huge reason that they sold the way that they did, of course. And what I'm saying is us being different, right? Us, this group watching right now, not the same as the regular Joes. For us, at least for me, and I assume you guys, if you know that underneath that, what Colby's doing is a shtick, and underneath, he's a fucking stone warrior code guy who will go up to a guy who he's just lost to for the second time and tell him that he's got love for him, he respects him, there's nothing but respect in real life. That makes me way more drawn to the guy than that he's doing a successful shtick. And that's why I'll talk about it on the channel. I'm not going to talk about beefs or whatever. I mean, just because I just won't. But like, I just assume everything is fight promotion unless people don't realize the camera's on, Like if they know the camera's on, then assume it's all a show. And he didn't think the mics were on, and you saw what he's like, And I just think that's fucking awesome, And now when it comes to the fight itself, I think what you saw there was that those guys are very evenly matched with one major exception. Like you watch them when they would have those wrestling exchanges, that was fascinating, dude. Like, cause that was just like, and Usman actually talked about it in the press conference. He's like, we speak wrestling. Like we understand. And I know exactly what he meant. I'm sure you guys do too. It's like, Colby grabs his back. They're rolling out of things. They're doing like, they're operating at a level that most people don't really get. It's like when you watch two high level black belts roll, and they both look like they're taking a nap. And they also both like you could take two high level jiu-jitsu black belts, put them in a room, have them, have one say that he's a blue belt, and the black belt will know instantly that that's not true. Like as soon as they start rolling, they figure it out instantly. They're like, wait, what belt did you say you were? Like the white belt trick doesn't work because they speak that language, and it's subtle. Like if you're just a regular Joe watching them, you're like, I don't get it. How did he know that he's a black belt? They haven't even done anything. Because it's like the most subtle, minute things that they're doing where they're like, how'd you know how to fucking do that, dude? You're not a fucking white belt. Get out of here. But the difference that I saw was the power, like the main, because Colby caught Usman, dude. Like Colby landed shots, but Usman's power was just not comparable, not even comparable. Guru Kumar, thank you very much. We want Hamzat Shemaev interview. Dude, I don't really do interviews, man. Like, I'm telling you, no one watches them. Like, I'm serious. Dude, I did an interview with Markel Martin, Francis Ngannou's manager, in the middle of what is the most heated like contract dispute in the UFC in a very long time. I feel like people aren't listening to me on that topic, or they think that I don't actually know what's going on, because like I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And I'm like, do people not understand what's happening? Like, or do they just think I don't actually know what's going on? Because again, I don't think you find many situations where the sitting, defending superstar UFC champion has a single fight left on his fucking deal, and he's about to fight. Like, Francis is going to be a free agent after this fight, potentially. Champ clause, they've got a year to figure it out, but he could just sit out and be gone. Like, and again, no one watched it. Like, I did that interview with his man. No one watched it. So anyway, that's why I don't. But Hamzat Shemaev, I will come back to that in a second, though, after I talk about this fight. But yeah, man, like the power differential was just I don't know. I mean, like the power differential was enormous, was just fucking enormous. And you just could see, like, even when someone would block a kick, like I pay attention to that stuff too, when kick gets blocked, it's kind of like, okay, well, he didn't get hit in the head. And you're like, but just feel the impact that the arms took, like just listen to it, with Kamaru, you hear that, just that smack. And with Colby, he just doesn't have that sledgehammer power like Kamaru Usman does. And I genuinely think that was the primary difference, because it was back and forth. It was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But man, when Usman landed, it just took more out of Colby than Colby, I think, was capable of taking out of Usman. I mean, dude, Usman hasn't even been, the only time I've even seen Usman rattled recently is in the Gilbert Burns fight, and he recovered. And Gilbert Burns is way more explosive than Colby. Now, I don't think that I don't think that Gilbert. I would pick Colby to beat Gilbert for sure. I would, actually, absolutely, for sure, because if Colby doesn't get finished by Kamaru through those fight, and he barely got finished in the first fight, if he makes it through 10 rounds with Kamaru and doesn't get finished, I don't see Gilbert finishing him in the first round. And Colby's going to put that pace on Gilbert. Gilbert's going to fold to that pace, I think. I love Gilbert Burns too. But I mean, Gilbert is just one of those stocky fucking stack guys that has such titanic explosive power that when you make him move, he's going to get tired, he's going to get tired, and Colby is going to make him fucking move. One thing I saw Usman say in the press conference also was he's like, Colby is used to beating guys down with pace. And he realized in that first fight, like, hey, some other people can run pace too. Usman had not slowed down barely at all in the fifth round. I found that, like, if you really think about Usman in his 5-round fights, like even guys that are warriors, you see them just a little, you see them kind of like just a little bit of their body language, where they're drooping just a little bit. They're like, and they're still, once they throw punches, they've still got that heat on it. But just the way they carry themselves in between exchanges, you're like, okay, he's tired. Dude, Usman does not do that. Like, Usman does not do that. He looks, whether he's poker facing it or whether he actually has gas like that, he is, all the way to the he looks exactly the same in his setup in the fifth round as he does in the first. It's very impressive, dude. Like, very, very impressive. Usman passed 50 straight USADA tests. Now, I do know USADA does not, at least with the DJ Dillashaw thing, does not test for EPO. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure TJ Dillashaw got popped for EPO in New York. So if the idea is that Usman was like just slipping EPO and he's never gotten popped by USADA, and then he just rolled the dice and took EPO when he's, because EPO, it's not like that builds up and you have to like take it, like it's like, I don't know, like you have to, at least I think, I don't know, I've never done it, but I'm pretty sure that EPO you have to take like, for the event, I think. I could be totally wrong about that actually. But nonetheless, he knows he's fighting in New York, and I'm not throwing around fucking accusations at people just because they look ripped, But yeah, I mean, both guys are very impressive. I think Colby and Masvidal happens now for sure. I think Masvidal, if he beats Leon, that's much better for that fight, because if they do the Colby and Masvidal fight with Masvidal coming off 3 losses, that's really not ideal. I almost actually agree with Colby. Colby said that they should scrap that fight, like scrap the fucking Leon fight. Let Leon fight Usman. Just go, you know what? We're gonna reshuffle the board. Leon, you get the next title shot at Usman. He'll be ready in like 3.5 minutes, and then we'll slide Colby in. Or actually, no, that's way too close. Colby's injured. Never mind. But if everybody was healthy, that would have been better. But I just think that the risk of Leon beating Masvidal is, now that we know Colby lost, not a good. It's a bad match. It's bad matchmaking 100%. But that is because it was like, if Colby wins, we have to have Masvidal set up for a title shot. That's why they booked that fight 100%. Now that Colby, if they knew Colby for sure was going to lose, they wouldn't have booked that fight, because this is all, like I've said a million times, like you only have a certain number of huge fights, like fucking massive fights, enormous fights. And that's one of them. And so that's why, they'll shuffle the deck and then hope that things work out the way that they want them to. But now they have a huge risk, because there's basically no upside for Masvidal. He's not going to get a title shot if he wins. And there's no upside for the UFC. There's only downside in the Leon Edwards fight, because if he loses to Leon, that makes the Colby fight not ideal. And in all honesty, let's say hypothetically that Colby and Masvidal are juking this thing and it's not a real beef. That sucks, because Colby's not going to, because then he really is in a situation where he could actually have his career over, and Colby's not going to want to end his best friend's fucking career. You know what I mean? Like, think about, again, God, I can't help myself. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I can't help myself. Okay. Think about how Colby talked in the octagon, right? All love, respect, whatever. Gets on the microphone, CEO of EPO, right? CEO of EPO, okay? And then he's, in the next breath, street Judas, fuck this guy, he owes his wife, ex-wife alimony, fuck him. It's such a deep beef, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so clearly on the microphone, we say things that maybe were not exactly what we mean. So in my opinion, there is a high likelihood, and again, I'm only saying this to you guys because you're hardcore fans, and and you guys should, if they're juking the beef, that makes it better for me, I think. So if they're juking it, and Leon, dude, like Colby does not want to be the guy that fits Masvidal's career if it's his best friend. Like that just is what it is, man. Like he definitely, like that's not a good scenario. So hopefully Masvidal wins, although I feel bad rooting against Leon, but like, and fuck, like Usman, we need a contender outside of Hamzat. Okay, that's what we'll talk about now. So obviously, if Leon wins, he'll get a title shot, and that situation with Masvidal and Colby is a little bit sticky now. But so, I'll be honest. All the investigation that I've done into the Colby and Masvidal thing, like tapping shoulders, that people that might know, have come back saying that they either don't know or that it's real. But the people who say it's real are all in American Top Team. And without any shred of doubt, that would be inside baseball. That would be the most utter betrayal ever if they was, so who knows? I don't know. But anyway, like, when it comes to who's going to fight Usman next, you've got Hamzat Chimaev and you got Leon Edwards. Like, you got Hamzat Chimaev, you got Leon Edwards, right? And so for me, I'm much more interested in Hamzat Chimaev, of course, because especially due to the intrigue, given that he hasn't fought any top guys yet, but he's been so dominant. Like, he's been so dominant against the guys that he has fought that I actually can't even wrap my brain around how excited I would be to watch that fight. because we don't know what we're going to expect. Like, because we literally don't know what we're going to expect. It's like, well, geez, his wrestling looks incredible. Is it possible that this Chechenian style wrestling and, that part of the world is going to supersede American wrestling? That's what happened with Gaethje when it came to Khabib. Like, we've only seen him strike just a little bit. He knocked a guy out with one shot. So clearly he can strike. What are we looking at here? We don't have any idea if Khamzat can absorb punishment. We don't know because he's eaten no shots. It's like a total fucking mystery. And one thing I will say about, I could say a lot of positive things about Ali Abdelaziz because he's the most successful manager in the place. He's got the, stable of fighters that listen, when you're a manager, there are a couple metrics that matter. If you're a fighter and you're trying to choose a manager, your goal is to choose a manager that's going to go to war for you and is going to stand by you no matter what. I would argue that in that regard, Markel Martin is beyond reproach as it relates to that. Like, he is completely fucking ride or die for Francis. Absolutely 100%. And Ali seems to be that way for his fighters too. He's always talking positively about them, about them on Twitter. He's collected a huge stable of people. He could, if he wanted to make it nasty for the UFC, he absolutely has the ability to do that. But he seems to have relatively good relations there because the UFC basically probably has to take care of his fighters. I mean, imagine if Ali wanted to make it ugly for the UFC. Collective bargaining with that fucking stable. He's got like, I don't know. I think he's got like 3 sitting champions, maybe 4, a bunch of other huge stars that, he's very, but the reason I brought him up is because if you look at the matchups that Usman has secured while being the champion, it is like, okay, let's just look at the chessboard, which is going to bring in the most pay-per-views. Because does Usman get comped on pay-per-views? Of course, right? And so they very successfully called for the biggest fights. And that they're doing that also because when Nick Diaz is fighting Robbie Lawler, they said, if Nick Diaz wins, we want Nick Diaz. Now, there's absolutely no case for Nick Diaz to get a title shot other than he's going to sell the most pay-per-views by a long shot. And that's who Usman wants because they're fucking smart. They asked Usman, they talked to Usman about fighting Canelo Alvarez in the press conference. And he's like, and Kamar was like, I just want someone that I'm afraid of. He's like, I just want something I'm afraid of, that I get up and I want you to train hard. People say Canelo this, Canelo that. Let me just say this. I don't think that is a matchup that will go well for anybody that's fighting Canelo Alvarez in a boxing match. I think Kamaru would annihilate him in MMA, but you don't want to get it. I mean, if we're just talking about will you win this fight, then no, you don't want the Canelo fight. But it obviously would be incredibly lucrative, and so they want that fight, whatever. But so that they asked that follow-up question, they're like, so Kamaru, since this is just about, you proving to yourself that you can do it and whatever, would you consider doing the Canelo Alvarez fight for charity? And he's like, what? And he's like, well, since it's not about money. He's like, who the fuck said it's not about money? He's like, of course we want the money. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? So, again, extension of good business. And Ali, I mean, if I can recognize who the biggest fights are, for sure, fucking Ali and Kamaru can. And so clearly there's no question where the biggest fight is going to come from. It's going to come from Khamzat now, And I mean, look, it's a hard case to make to have a guy jump from one fight in the top 15 against number 11, who has a very suspect ground game, to a title shot against Kamaru Usman, who is the most dominant champion in the UFC right now. But that's also why it works. Because Kamaru's cleared the division out. I mean, you got Luque, and I'd be very interested in that fight, actually. Luque is fucking dangerous. Leon, but man, I mean, which of those 3 fighting Kamaru Usman are you more likely to lose sleep in advance of right now? And it's not because it's not because Leon or Luque aren't tough guys. They're the toughest fucking guys in the world. But Khamzat's got that thing, he's got that thing. I'm going to kill everybody. I'm the wolf brother. He's got that thing. He's got the it that very, very, very few people have. It's incredibly rare for someone to have the it thing and also be a world-class, top-tier, top 3 in the world fighter. It almost never happens. That's why they become such enormous stars when it does. Conor, Khamzat, Khabib, that guys that like, I mean, that's again, the contrast between Islam Makhachev and Khabib is that's it, you know, like Islam's been nearly as dominant as Khabib. That's like at the same point of his career, but Khabib's got that thing, dude. Like even he doesn't need to say a lot, but he's got that thing, you know, and Hamzat's got that fucking thing. So it's going to be good, dude. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for all of it. I thought the fights were incredible. And anybody who was not here at the beginning, because I saw a lot less people watching, I'm actually going to, because we're on live, I'm actually going to recap this one last time in case anybody was not here for the beginning when I talked about the Chandler and Gaethje fight. Because if I have any message to deliver after this fight, it's about Chandler in that fight. And I'll do it again. If you guys saw it before, this is where you'd sign off because I'm going to do this and then I'm going to be done. But like, so Chandler watches my channel, right? And this is the thing. I have no idea how Chandler had envisioned Gaethje previously, etc. What I do know for 100% positive sure is that he's watched a bunch of videos that I've done about him and Gaethje in general. And I've always framed Gaethje the exact same way, which is Gaethje is a guy that is going to break his opponent. He's going to fucking break them. That's what he's out to do, is he's going to break his opponent. And I did video when I first started the channel, like the very, very first, probably like fucking first 5 videos I ever did. I did a video talking about Gaethje's style and how I can watch him and I can see what's in his noggin, where he's just like, you hit me, I'll hit you, you'll fucking quit first. He's a you'll quit first, you'll break before I will guy. And I did those videos. And then like 2 months later, he did Joe Rogan, and him and Trevor Whitman were talking about when he changed his style. And the exact words he said were, I didn't think I was ever going to have to switch my style because I thought I could break everyone, and everyone kept breaking. And I was like, get the fuck off me, dude. I knew it. I fucking knew it, dude. And I cut that together. You know, I was like, here's what I said. Here's what he said. But if you can actually really think about that, like think about that in terms of the approach to a fight, you know, like guys go in with all kinds of different goals, you know, like if you're a jiu-jitsu specialist, you're like, you know, like this guy, I want to make sure that I can slip this. When he kicks, I can catch the thing, take it to the ground, try to move to his back. Like you visualize how you're going to win. If you're Izzy, you're like, I'm going to pepper his legs. I'm going to go a little bit easy in the first 2 rounds. 3rd round, I'm going to start putting them on him. You know, I'm going to set him up with leg kicks so that I can question mark. You know, you visualize how you're going to win. And with Gaethje, it was, I'll break this fucking guy. You know, I'll break him. Like that's that. And if you could like just kind of internalize that, dude. It's not like I'm going to technique him. It's like, I'm going to test what this fucking guy's made out of, because I'm made harder than he is, because there's no one harder than I am. I'm the hardest guy alive, and no one can stand up to the pressure that I bring, because they'll fucking break before I will. And that was his approach. And I talked about that over and over and over on the channel. And while not being a professional fighter ever, I can promise you that my brain is wired the same. Like in terms of how a person who is a professional fighter who's going to fight another man would hear that and then start to think about it themselves. I'm positive that I'm wired the same. And if I heard that and I started thinking about it that way, that would be the furnace underneath every single training session that I had from the minute I thought about him like that until we fought. As I'd be like, he thinks he's going to fucking break me. Like he's going to fucking break me. No one breaks me. And that would be the framing of the fight. And then you get to that night and you think about it through that lens with Chandler, like no man can break me, not Gaethje, nobody. And then watch the fight through that lens. Like, it's hard to even talk about. I was so inspired by that performance. I don't even have fucking words for it, man. Like, he fucking walked him down with his hands down in the 3rd round. Like, I keep coming back to that. I said that before, but like, he took shots no one should be able to take, and he fucking walked Gaethje down in the 3rd round with his hands down and let him punch him in the face. If you think I'm being self-important and trying to jam myself into the story, that's not the point I'm making. The only point I'm making about me saying it this way and him fighting that way is that if anything, I planted, at least if he hadn't already thought about it that way, that seed was planted in his head about he thinks he can break me. And look at that, dude. Like, look at that. What is that an expression of? Go ahead. Give it your best fucking shot. His face is mangled. Give it your best fucking shot, guy. Like, what do you think he's doing there? You think that that's a technique that he's trying to work for a takedown? That's the ultimate expression of you can't break me. It's the third round. My face looks like I got ran over by a truck. I'm not even going to defend myself. Hit me with your best shot, you fuck. I'm not going down. There's nothing you can do. I'm not breaking tonight. It will not happen. It will never fucking happen. Hit me. I'm not even going to fucking defend myself. Go. Do it. Boom. Boom. Fuck, man. It's the most gangster shit ever, dude. I've never seen a person win bigger when they lost, dude. Like, I've literally never, ever seen someone win bigger while losing the fight ever than Chandler did last night. If you watch it through the frame that I'm framing it, because I'm telling you, I am fucking positive I'm right about this. That's where his mental was. I'm literally 100% positive. As 100% positive as I could be about another person, I am positive about that. And only because it's how I would think. I'm not saying I would be able to do what he did. That's why it's so impressive. It's amazing, dude. Like, it was hard for me to even watch without, like, just straight up, like, you know, because I'm watching with a bunch of random people. I'm in a suit. And, you know, I don't know if it's like a fucking, a great look with a bunch of people that you've never met. If you start fucking crying watching a dude get his face beat in, and then you try to explain it like this to a bunch of fucking strangers, you know, like try to, like, you know, through being choked up, explain why you're so moved by a fighter walking forward with his hands down and getting his face battered into fucking hamburger. They're going to be like, yeah, you know, like, if they don't know the names of the two guys in the octagon, I feel like they're not going to understand the point that I'm making. You know, you guys do. You guys understand, which is why I'll like that's why I have no shame talking to the group of hardcores here, like, and saying, like, I could have literally cried watching that last night. I was like for real. It's like the most inspiring shit ever. Where do people ever get the opportunity to demonstrate what they're built out of like that? You know, like in such a tight period of time. It's like when my life is over and people go to assess what I did with my life in general, the things I'll hang my hat on is I tried to be an excellent father. And I navigated tremendous adversity, like tremendous adversity, losing everything, going from on top of the world to losing to every single person was not objectively losing in every metric to every person that I was a peer of, to rebuilding myself and fucking beating almost all of them again. And it was the most agonizing experience ever that I would never wish on my fucking worst enemy. But that's how you define your life, is how you deal. Like, if you don't face challenges, how do you ever find out or demonstrate what you're built out of? And, like, who knows? I could lose everything again. I mean, it seems less likely now. But something could happen. We could lose fucking everything. And I would be more confident this time that I'd be able to build back than I was last time. But how would I ever know? How would I ever know if I wasn't put in a situation that I had to fight my way out of? And you, in the fight game, it's like, it's the only place where you get to test that in a person in such a short period of time. You know, like, you're going to find out what a dude's built out of, like, in fucking 5 minutes, you know, 10, 15 minutes. It's like, what's this guy really built out of? That's why it's the best sport fucking ever, dude. It's the best sport ever. I love it more than anything. And I'm incredibly fucking proud of Chandler and inspired by him and everybody else that fought last night. Incredible fight card. Anyway, that's what I got. Got to beat the street. Love you guys. Peace in the Middle East. Later.